Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Shloka Day today. Today's Shloka is Shloka number 26 of chapter 14. Mam chayo vyabhicharena
Mam chayo vyabhicharena
bhakti yogena sevate
bhakti yogena sevate
sagunan samatityaitan
sagunan samadhityaitan
brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Brahma bhuyaya kalpade.
Word for word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Mam,
unto me,
cha,
also,
yaha,
a
person who, avyabhicharena, without fail, bhakti yogena, devotional service, sevate, renders service, saha, he, gunan, modes of material nature, samatitya, transcending, etan, all these, Brahma Bhuyaya, elevated to the Brahman platform,
elevated to the Brahman platform,
kalpate, becomes, translation, one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, this verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spells of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. So as we discussed on Wednesday, the three modes of material nature influence all of us. We have to learn to distance ourselves from our thoughts and from our desires. And by this process of distancing ourselves from thoughts and desires, how do you distance yourself? Well, simply you replace your thoughts and desires that focus on material things to thoughts and desires that focus on Krishna. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different plenary expansions such as Rama and Narayana. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or of his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendently situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. That means all of the direct expansions of the Lord and the incarnations of the Lord are all also Satchidananda. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient. Omnipotent means all-powerful. Omniscient means all-knowing. And they possess all transcendental qualities. So if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. This has already been explained in the 7th chapter. One who understands, one who surrenders unto Krishna, at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. So in the 7th chapter, the 14th shloka, the Lord says that the three material modes, the three gunas, are very difficult to overcome. But in that same shloka, the Lord also says, but for one who surrenders to me, he can easily transcend it. So the key is to surrender. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire equality with Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are part of a gold mine. Thus, the living entity in his spiritual position is as good as gold, as good as Krishna in quality. So, a small fraction of gold is the same as a lump of gold. But at the same time, there is a difference between a small fraction, maybe a milligram of gold versus 10 kilos of gold. There is a difference. The difference is quantity, but quality is the same. That means if a Jivatma reaches that stage of liberation or reaches that stage of pure devotion, they are as good as Krishna in terms of quality. But a Jivatma can never take the position of Krishna because in quantity we are very infinitesimal. The difference of individuality continues. There are certain what do you call it, belief systems in India where they think that liberation means merging with the Supreme Lord, becoming one with the Supreme Lord. But that is not the Vaishnava philosophy. The Vaishnava philosophy is because we are practicing bhakti, we have to always be offering service to the Supreme Lord. So one cannot offer service once you merge with the Supreme Lord. So there's no question of merging in Vaishnava philosophy. Therefore, the individuality of the Jivatma is always maintained because the rasa comes from serving. Once everybody becomes into one single unit, where is the question of service? Therefore, the Lord retains his individual identity, as the Lord says even in the 2nd chapter. And the Jivatma also retains their individual identity. Therefore, Prabhupada is writing the difference of individuality continues. Otherwise, there would be no question of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means devotional service. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. That means Bhagavan, Bhakta, and the Bhakta has a relationship with Bhagavan through the process of Bhakti. So Bhagavan, Bhakta, and Bhakti. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there would be no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. That means to be able to serve the Supreme Lord means you have reached that designation of Satchidananda. Otherwise, how can you serve the Supreme Lord if you still have impurities in you? To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman or freed from all material contamination. So, Brahman, there are many meanings to the word Brahman. In this particular shloka, the word Brahman means to be in the pure state. It is said in the Vedic literature, Brahmaiva san Brahmapi eti. One can attain the supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. That doesn't mean you merge with Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as an individual soul. Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke. Shri Krishna always says that everybody is a part and parcel of me. So we are just parts and parcels of, we are not him. Because we originate from the Supreme Lord, then we have the same qualities as the Supreme. So His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu writes, some readers of the Bhagavad Gita are struck by a paradox. The Gita asks us to be neutral towards emotions like happiness and distress. Repeatedly, the Lord says we have to tolerate happiness, we have to also tolerate distress. But it also recommends bhakti, which is through and through an emotion. The whole process of bhakti yoga is to learn to love the Supreme Lord. How can we be both unemotional and emotional? That's the question. So Krishna is saying, surrender to me, but to surrender to him, to surrender to anybody, you have to learn to love them. But at the same time, Krishna also says, in this material world, you will experience this dichotomy of happiness and distress, heat and cold, summer and winter. So is Krishna contradicting himself? By being unemotional materially and emotional spiritually, answers Gita wisdom. So what is the answer? When it comes to material things, you should be detached. When it comes to spiritual things, you should be very attached. So again, the fundamental difference is between what is material and what is spiritual. There's nothing wrong when you get very attached on a spiritual platform. Even when you get attached to your guru, that is needed actually for you to make progress. But when it comes to other material things that are very mundane, that are impermanent, in that instance, Krishna says you should be detached, unemotional. The Bhagavad Gita explains that we are souls who are meant for an emotionally rich life with Krishna at the spiritual level. Presently, however, we are misidentifying with our temporary material bodies. This misidentification cuts us off from spiritual emotions and fills us with material emotions. We are like movie spectators who, because of identifying with a movie character, become cut off from their real life emotions and get filled with real life emotions. So sometimes you watch a movie, you identify with a particular character, and you start dreaming. So you're living in an illusory world. To return to normalcy, the spectators need to stop being emotionally involved in the movie and start having emotionally stimulating exchanges with others in real life. The Gita recommends these same two steps by urging us to be unemotional materially and emotional spiritually. Most of us are too materially entangled to immediately access spiritual emotions. So we need a path and a process to raise our emotions from the material level to the spiritual level. The Gita paves the path through the analysis in its 14th chapter of how the three modes of material nature trigger various material emotions within us. So when you get angry, when you get disappointed, when you get frustrated, when you're sad, when you're unhappy, these are all material emotions. Among such emotions, emotions in the mode of goodness are the most conducive for activating spiritual emotions. So we need to harmonize our lifestyle with that mode. Then we can transcend even goodness and unemotionally observe the arrival and departure of various material emotions in our consciousness. So we have to create a little bit of a distance between our real self, which is the pure soul, and our material emotions. As the most practical process to traverse this path, the Gita in this shloka 26 exhorts us to practice bhakti yoga undeviatingly by activating our spiritual emotions. This yoga of spiritual love enables us to tolerate and eventually transcend material emotions. So, over a period of time, what will happen is as you get closer and closer to Krishna and you're serious with your sadhana, whatever others may tell about you, they may criticize you, they may make all kinds of comments. Um, these things do not affect you anymore because you are completely on a different platform. Of course, it is a journey. It is not something that just happens overnight. So the whole crux of this particular shloka is Krishna is saying, well, if you're interested in transcending Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tama, then what should you do? Even though this last 6 chapters is about Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga, Krishna brings the concept of Bhakti Yoga back into the focus. Actually, if you see the last 2 shlokas of almost every chapter, the Lord concludes with Bhakti Yoga. Even though the first 6 chapters talk about Karma Yoga and the last 6 chapters are about Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, still Krishna brings back the concept of Bhakti. Through this, you can understand the Bhagavad Gita is actually about Bhakti. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification. If you'd like to join our classes every day, please check the details in the description section of this video. We look forward to serving you.